Hey, what's up guys, Roguru here, and today we will talk about decision making and as well as relational and logical operators in Lua. So what is decision making? Let me show you an example. Imagine a player joins a game and he needs admin commands. So what the script does is it checks if the player is in an admin group. If the player is not in an admin group, it won't give commands, and if the player is in an admin group, it will give commands. So essentially it checks for a value, and then if it's false, it'll do this, and if it's true, it would do this. So before we learn how to do real decision making in Lua, we have to learn the operators. So what are the relational operators? Well, here they are. The equals sign, which checks if the first value is equal to the second value. If the first value is equal to the second value, then it will return true. If the first value does not equal the second value, it will return false. For example, let me zoom in actually. If A equals B, so does 2 equal 2? It does. So it will return true. But if A would be 3, for example, it'll check, is 3 equal to 2? It isn't, so it'll return false. The not operator, which looks like this, is the exact same thing as the equal operator, but it's the opposite. So if 3 does not equal 2, which it isn't, return true. But if A would be 2, for example, and checks, does 2 not equal 2? No, that's false, so it'll return false. So exact opposite of equals. The other two operators are the greater than and less than signs. So the greater than checks if the first value right here, A, is greater than B, and only greater. So if A is greater than B, it will return true. If A is less than B or A is equal to B, it will return false. The less than operator does the exact same thing, but it checks if the first value is less than the second value. The last two operators are the greater than and equals and less than and equal signs. So what it does is, it's the exact same as the greater than and less than signs, but, for example, if we check if A is greater than or equal to, it checks if, okay, is 2 greater than 2? It isn't. But before it returns false, it checks if A is equal to B. So if is 2 equal to 2? It is, so it will return true. So essentially what this does is it checks if either the first value is either greater than or less or equal to the value, and the less than or equal sign checks if the first value is less than or equal to the second value. So these are all of the relational operators. Now we will learn about the logical operators after we start decision making. So how do you check a value? How do you decide whether to run or not run a code? So imagine we have a print function that prints out I am cool. And you want to run this if A is equal to 2. Well, this is how you do it. You write if, and then you write the thing you check. So if A equals to B, then, and then you close it with an end, and in between the first line and the end, you type in print I am cool. So what this does is it checks, okay, if A equals to B, does 2 equal to 2? Okay, it does. So it returns true, and if it returns true, it will run I am cool. If A would be 3, it would check, does 3 equal 2? It does not, so it'll return false and not run this code. Now, what if you want to have another check that says, okay, if A does not equal to B, then let's check something else. Let's check if A is greater than B. So, as you can see, I used another type of if statement. I added an else before an if. So what this does is it starts from the beginning and checks, okay, does A equal to B? No, it does not equal, so I'll return false, and I will skip this. But before I just, finish off with this if statement and just continue on with the code, I will check, hey, what about this? Is A greater than B? Hey, it is greater than B. Therefore, I'll run the code in here. Print, I am not cool. So let me show you guys in game, for example. If I play, it'll say, I am not cool. Because A is greater than B. But what if A was equal to B? I am cool. As you can see, it checks if this is true. If it isn't true, it continues to check if this is true. And if it's true, it'll print this, and then it'll leave the statement. Now, you can add as many of these as you want. And so on. But you have to understand that in this case, if this thing returns true, if this first statement returns true, both of these will not be checked. These will be ignored. So as soon as one of these will be true and they succeed, the next ones will be ignored. I hope you understand, because let me do this. Let me try printing I am cool too. So both of these are the same, and A does equal to B. So you would expect it to print out I am cool and then I am cool too. Well, if I play, it only prints out I am cool. This is because as soon as the first one succeeds, these two are ignored and it jumps to the end. It jumps up to here and then continues to run code from here. If you wanted to print out I am cool, what you would have to do is make this an actual if statement and then make it two different if statements. Now if you play it, I am cool too. Now what if you wanted to have a default value? So what if both of these are not true? So for example, this is 1. 1 does not equal to 2, so it won't print this. And 1 is not greater than 2, so it won't print this. But what if you still want like a default value to print out? Then you want to say, I'm just neutral. Well, then you want to use a thing known as else. You don't have to compare anything because this is like the default. So if everything before the else fails, it'll just print out the default. Print, I'm just here. So the default is there for like, if everything fails, let's just have some code that runs here. This is the default that'll run. So generally what you can understand this is the default and these are special cases. This is a special case that happens when this is true. This is a special case when it happens when this is true. And this is just the default when it happens when neither of these are true. You can also have if statements nested inside if statements, if then else, if then, and then you have another statement, if then, and so on. You can nest them. So if you can check if A equals B, and then inside here you can check if A is greater than B. And then you can print out, for example, print out coolest man. So what it does is it checks if A is greater than B, so for example 2, and then it checks if A is greater than B, and if it is, it'll print out this. So essentially you can just write any code you want inside the if then. Alright, so now what if you want to check if two values are true, or if at least one value is true? So for example, what if we want to check if A is equal to B, or if A is greater than B? So what does this do? So if A is equal to B, 2 is equal to 2, it'll return true. Or if A is greater than B, 2 is not greater than 2, so this will return false. It will still run the code in here. Why? Because when you use OR, it just makes sure that at least one of these has to be true. So if, for example, A would be 3, this is false, but this is true. So it'd say, okay, this is true, so that's enough for me, I can run this code. If both of these would be false, for example, A equals 1, A does not equal B, and A is not greater than B. So it says, okay, both of them are false, so I will not run this code. So this is our first logical operator known as OR. Our second logical operator is AND. So this is the opposite of OR. It checks, is A equal to B? 2 is equal to 2. Okay, so since 2 is equal to 2, this is true. But is A greater than B? Well, 2 is not greater than 2, so this is false. Unlike the OR operator, both of these have to be true. So you can't just have one of these be true, both of them have to be true. So this would be only running if, for example, A equals B, and then you can have local C equals 2, and you can check if and C equals B. And then you can continue and add how many statements you want. You can have A equals C, and so on. Same thing with OR, you can have as many as you want. You just have to know that, in this case, all of these three have to be true in order for the code in here to run. And the last logical operator we have is NOT. So what NOT does is it switches out the result. So for example, NOT A less than B. So in a normal if then else statement, it would check A, okay, it's 2, less than B, 2. Well, 2 is not less than 2, so I'll return false. But what the NOT operator does is it switches that false to a true. The same thing works for vice versa. If I would say A equals B, it check 2 equals 2, so I'll return true, and the NOT would switch that true to a false. So this is also a very useful operator. We will probably see more of it in my future videos. Anyways, that will be all for today. Make sure to practice at home. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I will see you in another video. Bye.